And I liked the reframe that Peterson put on this, which was you have to be in touch with both your goodness and your badness. Because if you are not in touch with your capacity for badness or evilness or your shadow side, many words for it, that is what actually makes you dangerous. And if we sort of reflect, at least on the last couple of years, where we see videos of people screaming at each other and we see, just the worst. And I know, social media sometimes is one of the worst neighborhoods to sort of walk around in, because everything seems so amplified there. But I think it's really important for everyone listening, and maybe I would love for you to expand on this, to get in touch with what are some of the dark corners of your personality? Because when you meet that person, for me, it's like the sloth. Like I ran away from the sloth because I was like hyperachiever. I am not lazy. Like that was like the most scary thing for me, is like for me to take off a day, very difficult. And my anger, like I can get very, very angry at things, but to not acknowledge those parts of you, that you are angry, that you have, as a female, that you have rage. I mean, that's another sort of female lens. Like women are always supposed to be like, how are you, Africa? I'm great. Yeah. How are you? It's like my whole life is unfurling behind me like a ball of yarn, but everything is fine. I think that's really, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I love that. I love that you bring that up, because that's one of my favorite teachings actually of Jordan Peterson's, and generally, because I think it's one of those ways of being that is so timeless that I would imagine that it's in every single culture, just in a different language, because it speaks to the shadow, essentially, right? You have to understand what your shadow is so you can really honor and truly be in your light, however you so define that. But that language that he uses, and I really like the way that he uses language, of if you're out of touch with your capacity for evil, you're truly or more likely to be a dangerous human being. I had to go back to that actually when I was breaking out of several echo chambers, and I really wanted to get clarity on what are my actual chosen beliefs and what are the beliefs that I thought that I had to adopt in order to feel safe. I had to remember what life was like for me before getting sober, which was 6 years ago now. I had to remember just how capable I was of lying, of manipulating, of cheating, of stealing, of, even since being a kid, all of these very shadowy behaviors that I could engage in so easily, which was both frightening, but also exciting. Because this idea of getting away with things and no one will ever have to know, having that as a child, it's a very kind of addictive thing when you can lie to someone and they have no idea that you're lying to them. There's something about it there. These things that always just came through me when I was a child, and I really had to look them in the eye when I got sober, and had to get very honest about them, had to speak to family members to understand how they experienced me. So for context, from when I was 14 years old up until I got sober at 24, I was a blackout drinker, a binge drinker. The inability to have one drink and then stop is just not something that I had. And I also did have an alcoholic father, so it was almost a copy and paste approach to his relationship with alcohol. And of course, that came with so many other things, like the lying, like the cheating, compulsive sexual behavior, manipulating my identity in order to be rewarded in some way. These very unconscious behaviors that became conscious, and I still chose them. So very messy, ugly, gross things that I had so much shame around, which would lead me to drink even more when I was drinking. So I was really entrenched in this kind of just pit of self-destruction and self-sabotage, which is where I then found my love for the work that I do today around self-sabotage and self-censorship, because I faced and danced with my own darkness in a way that most people never will in their life. So when I had been sober for quite a while. And when I started to notice myself being self-righteous when it came to certain ideologies and beliefs that people didn't hold, it was very important for me to remember my own darkness. It was very important for me to remember that I was afforded grace at a time where I didn't think I deserved it. I was treated and seen as a human being by people that I'd harmed, by people that I'd cheated on, by people that I'd lied to. And I was given the chance to change. I was given the chance to change my mind and to change my behavior. And I wasn't discarded. I was not dehumanized by anyone. Yet I was doing the very same thing, but dressing it up as social justice, you know? Yet I was doing the exact same thing. And sort of dressing it up as some kind of moral position that is going to have me validated in some kind of way. So I say all of that to say, this message of being in touch with your capacity for evil and wrongdoing, harm, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is so important. And it's been such a crucial component in me finding who I am again, in me accepting that the world is so layered, in me accepting that I'm not just good, but I'm also not just bad, which means the person that I'm speaking to is not just good and they're not just bad. And I don't have to put them on a pedestal, but I also don't have to look down on them because of the beliefs they have and the choices they have. So I think when I think of, on a broader level, when I think of cancel culture, which I refer to as collective sabotage, when I think of the components that make up collective sabotage, which is antisocial behavior, it is public shaming, it's humiliation, it's doxing, it's virtual stoning. When I think of it, it's emotional dysregulation. It's people that are very emotionally dysregulated, but they're able to position it again as social justice, as some kind of they're doing good in some way. I always try to show compassion to that because I realize that for the most part, it's people that haven't truly acknowledged their own capacity for evil. So they genuinely believe that they're contributing in some kind of useful way. Not everyone, of course, but I mean those people that shame others into making certain decisions, people that don't want you to ask questions, so you disrupt this echo chamber. It's people that genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing. And a lot of them are so afraid because if they agree with you, they will also get punished by the mob. So it's kind of cancellation by proximity. A lot of people agree with a lot of the things that we're saying right now, but to agree with it feels like a betrayal, you know? But yeah, I've so many things that I've put forward there, but that quote from Jordan, or even just that line of thinking, has been so important to me. And he is someone that I discarded right away because of how he was introduced. I always say to him, you know, that I wish I'd come across his lectures first. You know, it makes me so happy that we have that amount of gold that is so readily available on the internet. And I mean, his musings, my favorite timeline of him is him in those classrooms, just so passionate and just going into these streams of consciousness and not holding anything back. There's no scarcity with the knowledge, you know. I wish I'd come across that first, but I didn't. I came across a out of context clip. I was told how I should feel before I even watched it, and before I could even make up my own mind. I was told what I'm going to think. I was told who he was. So I rejected him completely, ideologically and in any other way. And came across him again and his work in that time when I started to think, hold on, I have been sick emotionally and verbally and spiritually for a few years now. There must be someone out there that is speaking to this, or there must be someone that can help me just break out of this trance, which was so debilitating. And his work was something I came across. My partner at the time told me to watch something, and my entire spirit, Stephanie, resisted it. I didn't want to like it. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't even go into it in good faith. I was open because I was so sick that something needed to change, that I was willing to take fucking anything at that point. But I was not open to him, but I trusted my partner. And I was just waiting for that moment where I could say see, so I could, justify me dehumanizing him and discarding him. And I was watching so many different things, and that the moment that I was looking for just never came. It just didn't come. I agreed with almost everything. I could take what I needed, um, and just leave whatever didn't resonate. But I didn't see this evil person. In fact, I saw a very sensitive man who cares. He truly cares. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, regardless of whatever character he might play at times, which I don't so much agree with, like his character on Twitter. And these are things that I tell him. But he cares. He really does care. And the moment that I saw that, I knew that I can't hide my appreciation for him. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to watch something in secret or agree in secret. And getting the opportunity to speak to him, which is just unheard of, something that I didn't even expect, allowed me to further free myself, because it's not every single day that you get to sit with someone and you get to be very honest about how you experienced them in the past, and you share with them how you experience them now. But yeah, he's been a very, very big part in my awakening and in my journey. But it's a shame that I didn't come across the lectures first.
I feel the same way. When I first was introduced to him, I was like, who is this terrible person that hates women and transgendered people? I was like, who is this terrible? And so I had a similar experience. I started watching some of his lectures online. And in particular, he had this series when he was still at U of T where he was analyzing art. And
yes,
there was an image that he was talking about with the snake, and it was Mary holding her child. And then there was another later, it was a biblical image. So we're talking about sort of the Catholic, or I guess the Christian image of Mother Mary holding baby Jesus, stomping on a snake. And then there was another image that he brought forward when it was Jesus, he had just been crucified, and Mary was just sort of holding this lifeless sort of dead body forward. And he was talking about this as a parable for what it means to be a mother. So my first instinct is like, you're going to mansplain to me what it's like to be a mom, because I already had this sort of thing. And then the way he had described it, of course I'm paraphrasing it, but he's like, the goal of a mother is to release your child into the world, especially if you have a son, and he was talking about this in the context, like, look at Mary, the ultimate sacrifice was that her son was murdered by the community, essentially, right? Didn't accept. Yeah. And then there she was holding the lifeless body. And it was very impactful for me, because I think before seeing that, I viewed my job as a mother, and certainly there's elements, so this is not an absolute, but my main, we'll say, job as a mother was to protect them from danger, rather than exposing them to danger in a tempered way, to teach them how to deal with it.
Yes.
So I kind of went from this like helicopter parent to like, actually, that's okay. You can like jump up and climb up the tree. And if you scrape your knee, like you'll figure it out how to do it. Yes. Like that was very, very impactful for me. And I think what you said around, sometimes activists or, let's say people who don't like Jordan Peterson or anyone really. I think you had said it perfectly, and I think it's worth highlighting, is just not in touch with their own shame and their own darkness that they have about themselves. Because for you to go and watch a man's video that you were told is, some sort of, narcissistic, bigot. Machiavellian bigot, exactly. And then watch him. Maybe you had a bias when you were watching him, but to say, oh, actually what he's saying is I can understand what he's saying. And maybe I don't agree with everything he says on Twitter,
Yes.
but that connection to your own shame, to your own darkness is what allows you the grace, let's say. It allows the permission for someone else to have a human experience, right? Because when someone else makes a mistake, it's like you said, it's like we cancel them, they're gone, we have to delete them, you know, and get them out of our sight as quickly as possible. And I do like, I am very enamored with this idea of like, we are all like, welcome to the human race. Like we all mess up all the time.